What's good, Nation? I appreciate you checking in. All right. Just before the schedule was released, I dropped a video just kind of detailing out the things that I look for when that schedule actually drops. And it goes far beyond just, what do our players look like versus our competition? How do the coaching staffs match up? It goes far beyond that. There's definitely things that I look at, and now that the schedule is released, I kind of want to detail that out because some of the things that I look at definitely applies to how our 2025 schedule looks and how it actually does play out. And I definitely want to go over that with you because, again, what I look for, it definitely applies to our upcoming schedule. And just keep in mind, as I go through this isn't a prediction as to whether or not we're going to win or lose that game because I do in-season breakdowns of the upcoming matchups every single week. And so this isn't a prediction of whether or not we're going to win or lose. It's more or less of just keep this in mind as we approach that game because one of the things, it's fun to do the predictions, right? It's fun to predict how many wins we're going to have, how many losses, so on and so forth. But here's the reality is the most important aspect to how competitive you might be in that game is something you can't predict, and that's injuries. We saw that last season. We were so plagued with injuries that it definitely affected the outcomes of games throughout the entire season. I don't necessarily like to do record predictions. I mean, it's fun. I did do one last season. That was my first true off season since doing this YouTube thing, and I had us at 8 wins. And look, we could have possibly gone there without all the injuries. So once again, the one thing you can't predict is injuries, and that has a massive impact on the potential outcome or record of your upcoming season. So with that being said, we're going to kind of dive right into it. But before we do, if you can, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on those notifications. I'm just over 100 subscribers away from my next giveaway. The next milestone, it's 5,000 subscribers. So again, it'll be my 10th giveaway since starting this channel in the 2023 season. So if you want to be including that, hit that sub button and we'll rock out with a giveaway. I definitely appreciate all my subscribers, my viewers, and this is one way I show my appreciation. But before we get into the actual schedule, just a reminder, it's tomorrow. I'm dropping this video on Friday, Saturday, May 17th. If you're in the Bakersfield area or in the SoCal area, you want to rock out with the Raider Nation, this is a great way to kick off the summer and kick off the new season. Raider Nation Summer Kickoff. Jeremy Chin, one of our free agency pickups this offseason, is going to be in attendance. You have an opportunity to get an autograph, do a meet and greet, all that fun stuff. Go to Raiders Crusaders on IG. He constantly drops updates. It's family friendly. You can get tickets on Eventbrite under summerkickoff2025.eventbrite.com. So I'm going to be there. If you do show up, look for a massive banner with my logo on it. I'd love to meet my supporters and just people that are viewing and put some names to faces and just show my appreciation. So come rock out with us if you're in the area. Definitely appreciate it. I'm going to go back up to the big screen and just a quick reminder of the things that I look for when that schedule does drop. And one of them, and I'm just going to go through them really quickly. One of them is how much are we traveling outside of our time zone, right? How much do we find ourselves traveling from West Coast to East Coast, back to West Coast, and you have multiple weeks where you're switching time zones? That definitely plays a role and has an effect on potential performance of that upcoming game. So that's definitely one thing that I look at. The other thing is do we have back-to-back away games? All right, do we have back-to-back or possibly even 3 away games in a row? And where are those games located? Are they located on the East Coast? Do you have back-to-back games on the East Coast? Because a lot of coaching staffs, they handle those situations fairly differently. Sometimes they will travel back and forth, or sometimes they stay out on the East Coast. That can play a role, maybe not on the entire team, but certain individuals just either adapt or react differently to those changes. And so that's definitely something to keep in mind. Again, as a reminder, I'm not saying this is going to make us win or lose a game, but it's definitely something to take into consideration when you are faced with those type of challenges. And just so you know, I also look at the opposing teams as well. Are they on back-to-back away games? Are they traveling back-to-back? So, and it doesn't just apply to us. I also look at our opponents, and I have a very good example of a game that really doesn't play in our favor. Even though it's going to be a very tough game, it's going to make it potentially even more difficult for us because of where our opponents play and when they play prior to us. And I'm going to break that thing down as well. Another thing I look at is trap games, right? I like to bet on sports. I bet on sports quite a bit. And I'm going to be honest, trap games are real. Prime example, the game that we played, I think it was about 4 years ago, when we played the Rams, when Baker Mayfield was basically on 2 days of practice and comes in and we end up losing to the Rams. I believe it was a Thursday night game. I mean, to me, that was just a trap game. It's a game we should have won, but for some reason, sometimes players and coaches, you just overlook an opponent because of their situation. Another case in point, Indianapolis, when Jeff Saturday, it was his first game ever coaching in the NFL. And all of a sudden, a game that we should have won, he ends up beating us, and we gave Jeff Saturday his only victory in the National Football League as a head coach, and hasn't been a head coach or even a coach in this league since then. You know, those type of games to me are kind of trap games. And I do believe that we potentially have one in this schedule, and I'll detail that out as well. Another thing I look at is bye weeks. All right, there are situations where we're going to face a team that's coming off of a bye, so they have 2 weeks to prepare for us. How does that play out? I could detail that, but also, do we face an opponent coming off of a bye, and what does their schedule look like leading up to that game? And so I definitely look at bye weeks, not just for us, but also our opponents as well. And in addition to bye weeks, you also look at primetime games, right? Are we playing a Monday night game and then all of a sudden we have a short week going against a different opponent? Those are the type of things that I definitely look at. And again, also for our opponents, are they on a short week, or did they play on a Thursday night the week before and now they get a few more days to kind of prepare for us? And lastly, I also, especially earlier in the season, are we facing a team that has a rookie quarterback, that has a new head coach, new offensive coordinator? Are they still in that phase of trying to install their offense and get everybody within that unit on the same page? You know, I'm a firm believer that it takes with a brand new offensive coordinator, maybe a rookie quarterback, it takes at least a handful of games for that offense to find some continuity within itself. And earlier in the season, you could potentially take advantage of that. Now, obviously, we have our own situations, a brand new offensive coordinator, some new pieces to this offense, but luckily we do have a veteran quarterback that should be able to pick up on the scheme a little bit quicker than what a rookie would. So, but again, just some things that I take a look at. Also, last thing, and one thing I forgot to mention, this is actually a big one. One thing I definitely look at is, with us being a West Coast dome team, do we play any teams on the East Coast outdoors in the winter months? That's one of the things that I definitely look out for, because it's extremely hard for a team that's acclimated to the indoors, that plays on the West Coast, also plays a lot of teams that are on the West Coast, to go play an East Coast team in the winter. And so definitely something that I look for as well. But with that being said, let's dive into the actual schedule, and we're going to go by game by game. Again, I'm not going to do a record prediction, but I'm just going to kind of detail out some of the findings that I saw within most of the games, not each game, but most of the games. And so let's kind of dive right into it. And first up, we got the Patriots. Here's the thing with the Patriots. It's just going to be a tough game. We're traveling to the East Coast, and the tough part about first games is you don't know what the team is trying to do. And the Patriots went through a completely revamp, right? They got Josh McDaniels, brand new offensive coordinator. They brought in a lot of offensive weapons, even new defensive weapons. But what makes this game so tough is they acquired 3 defensive players that played a fairly large role on our defense last year, between Robert Spillane, Caleb Von Chasen, and Marcus Epps. Even though Marcus Epps was injured the majority of the season, both Marcus Epps and Robert Spillane were set to be leaders on our defense. So they understand Patrick Graham's defense. And so that's going to be difficult. And a lot of the preparation that goes into preparing for a team you don't have. You don't know what their offensive and defensive scheme might be going into this. You don't have the game film to help prep for this game. So it's going to be a chess match. It's going to be a lot of in-game adjustments and who adjusts better than the other. But it's also going to be a battle of these coordinators, in my opinion. Patrick Graham versus Josh McDaniels. They know each other. They know each other well. So let's just see how the chess match works out. Again, I'm not about predictions in this video. It's more or less just about the findings. And so not a whole lot week one, but keep in mind, we're traveling to the East Coast in New England week one. But then we come back to the Chargers week 2 at home, our home opener. If any of you guys are actually going to attend that game, myself, a couple of the guys that I go live with on Tuesdays and Sundays in the Raider War Room, we're going to attend that game. We're going to possibly schedule a little bit of a meetup the Sunday prior to that Monday night game. So let me know in the comment section if you do plan to attend that game, and hit that notification as well, because leading up to that game, we're going to continue to let you know what our plan is for that Sunday for a potential meetup. One thing to keep in mind about the Chargers week 1 is they play on a Friday against the Chiefs. And so they're going to have a couple more days to kind of prepare for this. I know that game is in Sao Paulo, Brazil. So they are going to have to travel time zone. zones, but a couple more days rest and to prepare for us does give them a little bit of an advantage. So just keep that in mind. It's going to be an absolute battle either way, but just keep that in mind. Now let's take a look at week 3 against Washington. And here's the thing. Big thing to keep in mind, it's going to be a battle. Washington is obviously a very good football team, and it's going to be a massive test for us. But here's the thing. If you look at week 1, we were on the East Coast, travel back to the West Coast for week 2. Now we travel back to the East Coast to play Washington. That's switching time zones multiple times in a 3-week span. That could take a toll on this team. And here's the other thing. We're coming off of a short week. We play Monday night against the Chargers, and now we're on a short week to prepare against the Washington Commanders. And here's another thing to keep in mind. The Washington Commanders, week 2, they play Thursday night against the Green Bay Packers, which now that means we're coming off of a short week. If you take into consideration our short week, they basically have 4 days extra to prepare for us, given the fact that they play Thursday night against Green Bay the week before. And so we basically got screwed on this. Again, travel East Coast to West Coast to East Coast. We have a short week. They have a long week, 4 extra days to prepare. That's a shitty situation. So this is why I dive a little bit deeper into the schedule and look at our opponents and where they play, because that kind of gives you a little more insight as to how this game potentially can play out. And the games that both of us play in the previous weeks can potentially have an impact on the outcome of our game. And again, in season, I do a complete breakdown. So definitely hit that notification for those. I do it every single week. And so going into week 4, we come back home. So we're traveling again, changing up time zones. And now here's the thing. Within a season, there's also either a stretch that I call a gauntlet, where you are playing some really tough teams and you want to find yourself, you may not go undefeated in a very tough 3 to 4 stretch of games. So you definitely want to try to either go 50-50 within those games or maybe come out on top just a little bit. But there's also on the flip side, there's a stretch of games that you want to basically, if let's say it's a 4-game stretch, that you know we have to win the majority of those games because they're winnable. That's also a stretch that I also focus on as well. And I believe that stretch starts week 4. So we just came off of battles, the Patriots, the Chargers, Washington. These next 3 games, in my opinion, I feel we have to come out on top, either win all 3 or come out at least 2-1. And it starts with the Bears. This is a very winnable game, but one thing to keep in mind, the Bears have a tough 3-game stretch right before us, just like we do. They play the Minnesota Vikings, Detroit, and the Cowboys. Then they play us, and then they have a week 5 bye. And so with any team, they're going to want to come and smack us in the mouth, because you don't want to go into a bye with a loss. And so they're going to come out and they're going to want to smack us in the mouth. But this is the start of a stretch that I do think we need to win all 3 or at least 2-1. And then we have the Colts week 5. Not a whole lot about this game. Again, it's an away game. We're going to Indianapolis. And the only thing is the Colts are coming off of back-to-back away games, and then they come home to play us. And so this will be kind of a homecoming for them. They're going to be excited. They're going to be pumped to kind of play in front of their home crowd. And so keep that in mind, but nothing too crazy that moves the needle. But again, another game that we have to win. Really take advantage of this small stretch of games that I think we need to come out on top. And then in week 6, we have the Tennessee Titans. And this is where I think this could potentially be a trap game. And here's the reason why. Starting in week 4 against the Bears, I think this is a 3-game stretch that we have to win. All 3 games, Bears, Colts, and the Titans. And here's the thing is, if we go into this Tennessee Titans game and we beat the Bears, we beat the Colts, we have the Chiefs on deck and we have a bye. One thing to keep in mind, the Tennessee Titans, prior to us, they have back-to-back away games. We're the 3rd away game on their schedule. And so we might think that they're a little worn down, a little tired. We are their 3rd away game in 3 weeks. And if we have a little bit of confidence beating the Bears and beating Indy, and then we just kind of overlook them just in the slightest, looking forward to KC, and we have a bye week. So, again, like I said with the Bears, you never want to go into a bye week with a loss. I just don't want us to overlook them if we do go on a little winning streak against the Bears and the Colts. Again, I just don't want us to overlook them. I gave the example of the Rams. I gave the example of the Jeff Saturday Colts. Trap games are real, and teams do tend to take some teams lightly depending on the situation. So again, we should beat the Titans. We should beat the Bears, Colts, and Titans. And so going into week 7, we got the Kansas City Chiefs away, and then we go into our bye. So we have to take it to, obviously, it being a division rival, it being Kansas City. We got to take it to them. Kansas City is going to be on a streak of 3 straight home games, and we're the second of that 3-game stretch. And so they're going to be at home the week before. They're going to be comfortable, and then we go into Arrowhead. So we got to punch them in the mouth, and I do not want to go into that bye with a loss. So I definitely want to see us see a win that week. And then we got our bye week 8, and then we follow up that bye. We come out of that bye week 9 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And again, it's great. You come off a bye, you got 2 weeks to prepare for an opponent. That's great. But let's take a look at the Jags schedule. Now, the Jags, they got a bye week the same exact week as us, which is week 8, which means both of us are coming off of a 2-week break. Got plenty of time to prepare for each other. So really no advantage either way. And so again, a game that we should win, a game that we should beat the Jags. So let's go in, punch them in the mouth, and move on to a Thursday night game again, week 10 against the Denver Broncos. Nothing real big to talk about on this one, except for the fact division rival. Let's punch them in the mouth. Both of us on a short week. We play Thursday night. Let's beat the piss out of the Donkeys on their own turf. And then we got a long week. We got some more days to prepare, and we got a Monday night matchup against the Dallas Cowboys, week 11. And here's the thing. We get a few extra days to prep. But again, take a look at the Cowboys schedule. The Cowboys actually have a bye the week before that. So they have 2 full weeks and a couple extra days because it's a Monday night to prepare for us. It's going to be a battle. They're going to be well rested, well prepared. And so we just better be ready for a Cowboys team that's going to be hungry and ready to take it to us on that Monday night. And then week 12, we have the Cleveland Browns at home. So we get back-to-back home games, which is good. It's a short week, and it's a game we should win. And so, again, it's good to have back-to-back home games, and you could feel fully prepared for that game. Now, next up, as much as earlier in the season, week 4, 5, and 6, I felt like that's a stretch of 3 games that we should win. We should win all 3. That should be our goal without question. Now we kind of hit the gauntlet, and I feel like this is the gauntlet of our season. We start out with the Chargers. You got the Chargers, the Broncos, the Eagles, and the Titans. This is going to be the gauntlet, in my opinion. I do think that there's one every single season, whether it's a 3 to 4 game stretch where you're just hoping. You're hoping, obviously you want to win every game, but you're hoping that you come out at least 2-2 in this stretch, because I'll tell you why this does make it very difficult for us moving forward. And it starts out with the Chargers week 13. And here's the thing. Look at the Chargers schedule. They're going to be coming off of a bye. They're going to be well rested, and they're going to be ready to come and punch us in the mouth. And so we have to be obviously extremely prepared for this divisional matchup, but they are coming off of a bye. So you got to keep that in mind. And then another very tough game at home, week 14 against the Denver Broncos. Now the Broncos are on back-to-back away games, and we are the second game of that back-to-back. So that does help us just a little bit. Again, not saying that that's going to make us win the game, but just keep that in mind. But here's the kicker. Now we go to the East Coast. Do we play any outdoor games in the winter? And if you look at week 15, we play the Eagles away outdoors December 14th in the winter. That's going to be tough. Not only are they the Super Bowl champions, but now we have to go play outdoors in the winter. It's going to make it tough for any indoor team. So one thing that does help us a little bit, that I believe the Eagles, they're coming off of a Monday night game the week before against the Chargers. That's going to be a battle. And so they're going to be preparing for us on a short week. So that does help just a little bit. But man, keep in mind, winter outdoor games for a West Coast indoor team, that's definitely going to be tough. And now going into week 16 against the Houston Texans, this is the last game of the gauntlet. We got the Chargers, Broncos, Eagles, now Houston. One thing to keep in mind is this is going to be back-to-back away games for us. It's a away game against the Eagles, and we got the away game against the Houston Texans. But here's the kicker. Houston is also on back-to-back home games, and we're the second of that home game stretch. And so they're going to be very comfortable. They're going to be well-rested. They're going to be well-prepared for us. They're on back-to-back home games. We're on back-to-back away games. Just makes it a little more difficult, in my opinion, something to keep in mind. Week 17, we got the New York Giants. Nothing to really take a look at on that one. We do come back home off of back-to-back away games, which is really good. We're going to be able to potentially, hopefully, get to a home crowd. Now, I know Allegiant isn't always a home crowd for us, but at least we're back home. And then to finish off this season, we got a division rival, Kansas City Chiefs, at home. We have to finally beat the Kansas City Chiefs in Allegiant Stadium. We got to finish off this season with an absolute ass kicking of the Kansas City Chiefs. So again, guys, that kind of sums up my breakdown of this season and of the schedule. And I want to take the opportunity to be able to kind of break it down and just kind of how I see it going into this 2025 season. And so I'm going to go back up to the big board. And so again, a couple videos ago prior to the schedule release, I wanted to break down what I look for. Now that the schedule was released, I wanted to kind of apply it to what the schedule looks like and just kind of how I process it. So again, I apologize, it was long-winded, but just keep in mind every single game week I do break down the actual games and just kind of how our matchups look like, because again, one thing that we can't predict is injuries, and that does play a big role on just how you're going to compete week after week against your opponents. And again, not just our injuries, but our opponents' injuries as well, because injuries are the name of the game. I appreciate you sticking with me. Again, something I like to do every single season on the schedule drop. Let me know if there's something that you look for in the schedule throughout the season that I didn't touch on. I'm here to learn as much as I like to just kind of give you what I look at and the knowledge that I have. I definitely like to learn from you guys as well. So let me know what you look for within the season. But again, my next giveaway is at 5,000 subscribers. I'm just over 100 subscribers away from that. Hit that sub button if you can. Also hit that like button and turn on those notifications so you do know when I drop more content. I go live on Tuesdays and Sundays with my guys in the Raider War Room, just so we can kind of chop it up with the chat, elaborate a little bit more in detail, but also chop it up back and forth. So we definitely appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day. But again, if I see you at the Raider Nation Summer Kickoff, man, come kick with us. Let's chop it up. I definitely want to put names to faces. It'll be good to see all of you guys. So again, appreciate you. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend. I'll see you on the next one. I'm out of here.